We'll call the Education K-12 Subcommittee to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representative Bosso. Representative McKenzie. Ritchie. Slater. Stevens. Warner. Chairman Hurt. Chairman White. Chairman Haston.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Any personal orders before we begin? We'll remind everyone if members are the only ones that will be able to stand on the back. So if there's not a seat available, we will need to have people wait outside and wait till we have some people vacate some seats. Just want to make that reminder. Going to go through a couple of items on these. We will start with the school safety calendar today. And there has been a couple of updates wanted to give you on item number 6. House Bill 2154, that will be rolled to the regular calendar. And item number 7, House Bill 7077 is off notice. And I believe is that it for that. All right. That's going to bring us back to the top of the calendar, item number 1. Yes, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to welcome the Tennessee Educators of Color Alliance. It's a nonprofit that supports retaining a diverse workforce. We have members in more than 15 counties statewide, and they're up here visiting the Capitol. So let's give them a round of applause as they stand. Many of them are first-timers to our legislative process. Thank you.
Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for that, Representative McKenzie. That brings us to item number 1, House Bill 1633. We have a motion and a second. Chairman Reagan, you are recognized on House Bill 1633.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, House Bill 1633 is about de-escalation training. All of you should have access to a report that was done by our own Comptroller's Office of Research and Education Accountability that I asked them to do for us back at the special session that we had last fall. In that report, the Tennessee-specific data is that 4 out of 10 school shootings in Tennessee result from dispute escalations. Less than half actually occur inside a school building. 76% are in high school, and over 94% involve males between the ages of 14 and 19. So we have identified here a target group for which de-escalation training is appropriate. I'm sorry, application of that. The de-escalation training is for the teachers. In doing my research for this, I went to the Law Enforcement Innovation Center for the University of Tennessee, which is one of the premier organizations in our state that trains law enforcement. In fact, they're known as the National Forensics Academy. This group does great work in de-escalation training. I had the opportunity to go through some of it with them. I'm here to tell you it's very successful. The shootings that we're talking about, since over 4 in 10 of them come from dispute escalations, can be short-stopped by training our teachers and administrators how to do de-escalation. If we intervene at that particular point, the shootings don't happen. There's lots of other data I could go through. I researched the FBI data files, the Homeland Security files, and I can give you all the numbers that you're interested in. Suffice it to say that if we can, we need to train our teachers and administrators on the proper techniques for avoiding a school shooting before it reaches the point of being a school shooting. With that, I stand ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Chairman Reagan, for that explanation. Members, any questions for the bill sponsor? Chairman White, did you have a question?
Yeah, it sounds like a great bill. Could you give me a little idea of who is qualified to train this, to teach this, and what is involved in the training of our teachers and school personnel in this type of de-escalation training? Chairman Reagan?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Let's begin with de-escalation training is done for all of our peace officers. It's part of the POST program. In addition to that, where I went, the Law Enforcement Innovation Center has an expanded program on that. I talked to the director of that organization. He's willing to do a traveling show for our teachers across the state to teach them this. And they actually have a school or a school shooting simulation that they could go through. It's very effective. The thing is computer-based. You get into this simulator that's a 300-degree surround with projectors, and based on the decisions that you make in there, there's a operator on the outside computer. You make a decision, he hits a button, it branches into this branch of the decision tree, and so forth and so on, so that you see the effect of your decisions on actually de-escalating a situation.
Thank you for that, Chairman White. Follow up?
Just follow, and the timeline, are we able to do this in like the 24, 25, where it says beginning, then how long do we have to implement this in our system?
Chairman Reagan?
That program already exists, sir.
Okay.
And I've already talked to the director. He's very agile. The limitation that he faces is purely one of enough personnel to be able to construct the program. He already has personnel that go statewide to train police officers. Adding in teachers is going to be a question of timing and the availability of the teachers as well as their staff.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Ritchie?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, sponsor. Completely agree. I think de-escalation would be a great thing from a training standpoint. The first thing that ended up popping in my head on when you were describing this is conversations that I've had with our local LEA on the redundancy of other training, not taking away the significance or the importance of this, but I think that might be something to look at as this is rolled out into the pilot programs or into rolling this out across the state, is the volume of training that our educators are going through right now. What was shared with me from the superintendent, there's a lot of redundancy, bloodborne pathogens or whatever it is, where they're sitting down and doing that year after year after year. Do you see this potentially being able to fit in and mesh into where some of those redundant trainings or that they're sitting down are coming out, or would this be a new in addition to all the other stuff that's currently?
Answer is yes. Yes, in the sense that it's new, it's not done now. However, it can easily fit into the training program that already exists. As you pointed out, we do have some redundancies. This is the kind of training that all teachers should undergo at least once. They do get some of this, let me specify, they do get some of this in their education preparation providers. But this is a question of giving them concentrated training in the situations in which they're going to be working by professionals who are experts in the field. And how often that's done is going to be up to the LEAs.
Any other questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, I think we are set to vote on House Bill 1633. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
All right. Members, that brings us to item number 2, House Bill 1899 by Chairman Rudd. Do I have a motion? Motion. Properly motion. Chairman Rudd, you are recognized on House Bill 1899.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the SRO Expansion Act that we passed in special session, and it passed the House, but the Senate didn't take it up. It is still exactly as it was as it passed. It also still has the Chairman, I believe it's Chairman White, Reagan, and Sapicki's amendment in full committee that made the bill, and all of that is still intact. The bill is not changed. What this does, as many of you know, when we passed the SRO Act to help fund SROs, we were finding that rural areas especially can't find enough deputies to be in the schools. So this would allow that qualified veterans and retired police officers can take the basic SRO training and pass other qualifications by both the sheriff and the school board. They would be a county employee, a county school board employee. They would have to follow the rules. They would have to check with the sheriff if the sheriff granted them permission to carry a gun. But otherwise, they would take a mental evaluation. They would be certified by a mental evaluation by a health professional. They would pass a TBI and FBI background check, and they'd be fingerprinted, and that would qualify them to be there with the basic training. So this has helped the rural areas find qualified people to guard our children in school. And that is the bill, sir.
Thank you for that, Chairman. Representative McKenzie, you're on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, as we discussed during special session, and I'm going to give it clarity, retired police officers, I get that's a wealth of training in domestic situations dealing with people on a person-to-person kind of basis. Retired military, no disrespect, but when you retire from the military honorably, I mean, you could have done everything from special forces to being a cook. So there's nothing special about being, in a lot of cases, being retired military. And these are some of our most valuable and precious, things, our children that we're talking about. So just to open the pipeline to them is, I think, might be a little premature. If someone is retired military and they want to go through the process of becoming an officer, that would be great. And that happens probably in every recruiting class. But to put them at the head of the line simply because they have their DD 214 I think is overreacting to a shortage. I think we need to deal with the shortage of school resource officers. I think we're going to fund it, but we have funded it, but to just say because you retired from the military, you get to the head of the line, I think might be problematic. We're talking about some of our kids in the classroom are going to be angry. They're going to be combative. They're going to be unruly. And our teachers are trained how to handle that to a certain point, and our school resource officers are trained, and retired police officers are trained. So this, to me, might end up putting us in a bad situation. How would you respond to that?
I don't feel so, and we've left it up to the local LEA to write their own requirements. It could be a retired military, honorably discharged veteran. It could be someone that was a military police. It'd be up to the school, because they're not always going to be. If you go into a smaller county, there won't necessarily be a retired police officer in that county or one that wants to serve. So we open it up to veterans, qualified veterans, and they are going through the SRO training. They are going to have to report to the sheriff. They will be employees of the school. The school can write their own requirements, who they're looking for. If we don't put the veterans in there who are wanting to help and are qualified in crisis situations and trained in weapons and et cetera, we are limiting it to, back to where we started from, because there may not be retired police officers in that particular area that LEA is having or that want to serve. And again, we're leaving this up to the LEA. We're giving basics here, the minimums that they have to pass to qualify, and then if they want to add more, since it's going to be their employees, that'll be up to the local LEA. But if we don't include veterans that can be the school system that can be reimbursed, then we may not have any. We're back to square one where we don't have anyone. And they're the only other profession besides police that are at least trained in weapons and trained in crisis situations. And like I said, it would be up to the LEA whether they want to require them to be former military police. I think a lot of it is going to be guided by the areas in which they are, what the pool of people are. And this is a purely permissive bill. It's an option for the local LEAs if they can't find anyone.
Representative Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sponsor. On the permissive, you got there to where I was going to make sure we made a comment on there. It's permissive to the local LEA. I spoke with the sheriff there in Blount County, and he mentioned that his concern would just be on the confusion standpoint. If you've got veterans, me being a veteran myself, but if you've got somebody who comes in, goes through the training, psych eval, all the other steps, he's only concerned that there could be some confusion in reporting, because if they're contracting, coming on board through the LEA, how do you see that relationship funneling out? Because based on the conversation, that was his only concern, is that there could be some confusion between those individuals that are not post-certified through the local department.
Chairman Rudd.
Well, if they were post-certified, they'd be deputies. So not everybody can get the post-certification, especially if they're retired or if they're in their 40s or 50s or they want to do this part-time or full-time to help. Like I said, it is permissive, and we don't know any other way around that. Right now, the schools can hire security guards without our permission. This would open up that pool of where we're paying for at least one SRO in a school. We're not paying for the security guards that they can hire. These people would be as trained or more trained, especially if they're a retired police officer or former military police, than a security guard in some cases. But they would be the county, it would be up to the county standards. This is just the minimal standards they can go by. But like I said, they can hire a security guard now or a security service, but they wouldn't be paid by the state for that one security guard, maybe in a high school or junior high school. And I would imagine, and the rules goes, they wouldn't be able to, some rule LEAs only have 3 or 4 schools total countywide. So they wouldn't probably be able, even at this, be able to find enough for all of them, but at least they could in the major schools they wanted protected.
Chairman White, you were recognized.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. These positions, back in special session with the state put up the money, $75,000 for an SRO in every school. But these would be positions outside of it. These would not be funded through that model. Is that correct?
No, they could be. They would be.
Even the veterans?
Yes, as long as they were qualified into this bill. If they're a qualified veteran or a qualified retired police officer under the terms of this bill, they could be paid by the fund. If they can't find a deputy, those certainly could be, yes.
Thank you.
Representative Warner, did you have a question?
Yes, sir. I move question on the bill.
Question has been called. Without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 1899. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Ayes have it. On to
Thank you,
full
committee.
education. All right, that brings us to item number 3, House Bill 2344 by Chairman Bricken. Do I have a motion? Properly motioned. You are recognized on House Bill 2344.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of committee. If I could have a point of order before I introduce my bill. I have 4 special people in the audience. While they're traveling home to Memphis, my son Ben, my lovely daughter-in-law Whitney, my 2 granddaughters Grace and Whitney, and again, I wish I would welcome them. So.
Welcome in. He will do anything to try to pass a bill up here. That's a testament to his.
Don't shoot me down too soon.
No,
all right.
You are recognized on House Bill 2344.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill, if enacted, will be known as the Protecting Tennessee Schools and Events Act. This bill would allow your local LEAs to acquire a minimum number of highly functioning, efficient, and flexible metal detectors from the state through a grant program through the Department of Education. With that, I renew my motion.
Thank you for that. Members, any questions? Representative Ritchie, you're recognized.
Yeah, just a quick question, sponsor. On the, looking at the fiscal note on there, I know it's for 3 schools or 3 devices per LEA. Is that each year? So the fiscal note of the 7.8 million would be 7.8 million each year going forward because there'd be an additional 3 new devices each year?
It's intended to be one. I mean, at least these should last, according to the company, for an awful long time, be warranted. So currently, this bill would just be for up to 3, one time.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know your earlier bill just kind of had the LEAs going out and purchasing them or the school board. So this creates that. I don't see the language, but your bill currently has it's a grant program that the LEA can apply for and get these funds. Is that
correct? It'd
okay?
be up to the LEAs to apply for them, and they would meet the conformity of the technical requirements that are specified in the bill.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Representative Slater, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, how many grandchildren do you have,
I have
Representative?
8.
8, okay, very good. And it's always good to see grandchildren. We have 7, so you've already got me beat by 1. But on the bill, and this kind of goes back to a question that was asked previously as far as the metal detectors and who is going to contract. And I am looking at the language, and it looks like that the Department of Education would be responsible to contract with a vendor. I wonder if that's the best place to put it as far as a statewide contract as opposed to the LEAs contracting directly with vendors and having technical specifications. That's my concern. Had you considered that?
Representative Bricken.
Oh, absolutely. The bill will be in the form that it will be through grants program from the Department of Education, and only for the local LEAs to apply for those, for the grants and qualify.
Representative Slater?
So I recognize that it would be a grant program through the department, but it also appears that the department would be responsible for contracting for all of the metal detectors across the state. Am I misunderstanding something there?
Yes.
Representative Brigham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the bill, what I'm going to say as amended or will be amended to a point where the LEAs can contract with any company that meets the specifications of these type metal detectors.
Just one more follow-up, if
Representative
Mr.
Slater?
Chairman. So you mentioned, is there an amendment coming between here and full committee that would place that contract with the LEAs as opposed to the department?
Or would you
Yes.
be open to that? Representative Bricken?
Yes, sir, there will be.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, members? All right. Seeing none, we're set to vote on House Bill 2344. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education. That brings us to item number 4 on the calendar. House Bill 2528, properly motioned. And Representative Grant, you are recognized on House Bill 2528, and I do believe you have an amendment.
Yes, sir.
And what is that drafting code that you have there? Is it 14778?
Yes, 14778. That is
All right.
correct.
All right, members, we do have it properly before us, and without objection, we'll go ahead and vote to adopt Amendment 14778. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You are recognized on House Bill 2528.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. What this legislation does is it establishes a mobile panic alarm pilot program for $60,000 administered by the Department of Education. The pilot program aims to provide grants to local education agencies, LEAs, public charter schools, private schools, and church-related schools to offset the cost of mobile panic alarm systems. The systems must be approved by the Department of Education in consultation with the Department of Safety. The grants will be available for schools across the state of Tennessee. Equal consideration will be given to each grant division. No single grant can be larger than $10,000. Grants will be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. The Commissioner of Education will create rules to implement the program. The Department of Education is required to submit annual reports to the General Assembly detailing the funding, receipts, and payments. And concerning the impact of mobile panic alarm systems, the key would be to improve the safety in schools the key to improving safety in schools is reducing first responder response times. Mobile panic alarm systems have been shown to significantly reduce police response times during emergencies, saving lives of students and teachers in emergencies. Mobile panic alarms also provide distinct alerts for fire, intruder, and other situations. Concerning the funding of mobile panic alarms, schools are eager to make safety investments but have limited funding available, as we all know. The budget allocated for school safety for the upcoming fiscal year is roughly half what it was designated last year. Just $20 million to meet the needs of more than 580 independent schools and 147 public school systems. Reduced funding limits LEA's ability to install effective safety programs in schools, and this is just the beginning of what we call a pilot program, which we hope in the future will make it easier for us to expand this program. And a lot of people have asked about the current school grant system. And from what the Department of Education has told us, all of that money has already been allocated for these type items. So this is why we're bringing forth this pilot program, and the fiscal cost is $60,000, which will be equally divided out amongst the 3 grand divisions. And Mr. Chairman, we do have Dr. Leah Watkins here with us, the Director of Schools of Henry County, that I think she is one of 3 schools across the state that has implemented a similar device as I have described here. And with your permission, you know, I'd love to go out of session and bring her up and let her talk about how it's affected her school.
That'll be fine. We did have her on the list, and members, without objection, we will go out of session and bring up our guest. Without objection, we are out of session. And Ms. Leah Watkins, just make sure your microphone is on, and just state your name for the record and who you represent, and have 2 minutes for a statement, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Leah Watkins, and I serve as the Director of Henry County Schools. Thank you for having me here today to explain why our district implemented a mobile panic alarm system and how it has improved our school safety. In Henry County, like many other districts, safety is our top priority. That's why we continually review our practices and procedures for safety, including our embrace of innovative solutions such as our mobile panic alarms. Seconds matter. These systems are not just tools, they're lifelines that have profoundly improved the safety and security of our school system. Mobile panic alarms reduce response times, empower our teachers, ensure clear communication during emergencies, and even aid in managing daily incidents that don't require a lockdown. When faced with an emergency, whether it's a medical issue, an altercation, or a more severe threat, every second counts. With the press of a button on the wearable device, our teachers and staff can instantly notify the entire school of an emergency situation. Simultaneously, they can alert emergency responders, initiating a swift and coordinated response. This immediate action can be the difference between tragedy and survival. Henry County's adoption of this technology has given this ability to all of our faculty and staff. These systems empower our educators to be proactive about school safety. Feeling equipped to act in emergencies instills a sense of confidence and control. It's a reassurance that no matter the situation, help is just a button press away. The simple action of pressing a button and knowing help is on the way allows our teachers to return their attention quickly to following protocols and keeping themselves and their students safe. Clear communication during emergencies is very important. These systems help meet the goals of the recently passed fire alarm protocol bill to easily allow teachers to distinguish between a lockdown or an evacuation, making sure no one is unintentionally put in harm's way. These systems also provide vital information to responders, ensuring that they understand the nature and the location of the threat so they can prepare as they approach the school. Mobile panic alarms are also useful for common everyday incidents. Disruptions or altercations within the school premises can escalate rapidly. With the panic alarms readily accessible, our teachers can swiftly summon assistance, maintaining that safe and conducive learning environment for all. For Henry County, this implementation of the mobile panic alarm system is not just a security measure. It's a commitment to the well-being of our students and staff. By reducing the response times, empowering our teachers, and ensuring clear communication during emergencies, and aiding in incident management, these systems can save lives and prevent tragedies. I ask this committee to support the proposed legislative pilot program, which would provide funding to districts just like mine to implement these vital safety measures. Together, we can ensure that Tennessee schools remain safe havens where students can learn and thrive without fear. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Director Watkins, for that. Members, any questions for our guest? Representative Slater, you're recognized.
Thank you, Dr. Watkins. Just a couple of quick questions about cost. How many of these have been deployed in your county, and at what cost? Were they either each or for the entire county?
So we purchased these devices so that every teacher and staff member has a mobile device, and I'm actually wearing one that will initiate the trigger. So each device, the replacement, and we chose a particular vendor, so obviously there's variances in different vendors. But each of our actual, like replacement of each of these devices, it's a minimal cost, $3 to $5, I believe, per item. And then overall, the install and all of those things will vary based upon the vendor. So I think our cost was probably pushing around $120,000 for our system. And that actually put it in all of our schools and gave a device to all of our teachers and staff members. Also allowed us to have these on our cell phones so that an emergency can also be initiated and notification to law enforcement can come through their cell phones and all of that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do you have a Judy Varner that works in Henry County Schools?
Judy Varner worked with me for many years.
Okay.
She was at PSSD as a mentor. Fabulous lady.
All right, thank you. That's my aunt. Don't believe any of the childhood stories she might tell you about that. So it's great to have you here today. Thank you. All right, without objection, members, we'll go back into session. Thank you for being with us today. Any questions for our sponsors or our sponsor? Representative Slater.
Just real quick, thank you. And the cost, and I am supporting your bill. I'm a yes vote on the bill. I think it's a great thing. But in hearing her say that it was over $100,000, and this grant is $10,000, what will this grant be able to cover in it, or is this intended only to help a school district get these devices?
Representative Gant.
Great question. The average cost is going to vary per that school, the size and number of students, number of staff. And her projection, I would assume, is probably for the entire county for equipping all of the schools with this first alert system. But the average cost, from what I'm being told, is around $10,000 for one school. And of course, that's based on a certain number of students, certain size, but that helps get this product in that school in the door for them to at least try. Now, the $10,000 may obviously go towards a total price of, say, $15,000 or $20,000. So this is a model to help that school develop this system in their county.
All right, members, no further questions. Looks like we're set to vote on House Bill 2528. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Members, due to a scheduling conflict, we are going to go a little bit out of order here. So without objection, we're going to bring up item number 10, House Bill 1664 by Representative Warner. All right, properly motioned. Representative Warner, you are recognized on House Bill 1664.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1664, members, if you may remember, back in the special session, we passed this bill, but it did not get taken up in the Senate. So what this bill does, it authorizes law enforcement agencies to assign at least one law enforcement officer to serve as a school resource officer, or SRO, at a school if the local Board of Education has not entered into a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the law enforcement agency. Requires the chief of the law enforcement agency that assigned the law enforcement officer to notify and provide certain information to school officials. Expands the definition of an SRO and the list of individuals authorized to possess and carry a firearm on school grounds, to include such law enforcement officers assigned to the school. And with that, I stand ready for questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you for that. Members, any questions? Seeing none, looks like we're set to vote on House Bill 1664. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education. All right. That takes us back to item number 5, House Bill 2357 by Representative Carringer. Do I have a motion? Properly motion. Representative Carringer, you are recognized on House Bill 2357.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Committee. So the Safe Schools Act of 2023 requires school buildings constructed or remodeled after July 1st of 2023 to have certain security measures, including installation of a clear bullet-resistant or entry-resistant film on the glass panel of each exterior entry. So what House Bill 2357 will do is require a more specific standard of window film or security glass on each exterior door, plus any glass adjoining an exterior door. And so what that would be is the ASTM F3561. It's a standard test method and for forced entry resistance of a fenestration systems after simulated active shooter attack. So with that, I will stand for questions and ask for your support for the bill.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions? Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you. And I think we talked about this bill, but I was reading it. I do have, for clarity, and want to get your thoughts on this, where it says, after July 1, 2024, all buildings constructed or remodeled after that date, which is coming up, must at a minimum include a door locking mechanism, item number A. But then item number B, where it says have installed a clear window film or security glass. My question is, by prescriptive in code, with technology to changing the way it is, are we limiting our ability for the schools that are built in the next 5-10 years? Are we restricting them with just the item that's in here?
Representative Carringer.
Well, I have Tom says here to testify. If you want to go out of session, you can speak to him about it.
Yeah, we do have a guest down the list to talk to this. So members, without objection, we will go out of session. And just come on up to the table and make sure your microphone is on. There'll be a red light that comes on, and then state your name and who you represent. And you'll have 2 minutes for a statement, and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me here. My name's Tom Chiz. I'm a retired homicide detective, SWAT team operator out of Syracuse, New York, upstate New York, and K-12 active shooter expert. I'm CEO and founder of Armored One, where we specialize in security assessments, active shooter training, security glass solutions, and post-incident attack investigations for K-12 attacks nationwide. So 2 minutes?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I founded Armored One the night of the Sandy Hook attack in 2012 when an attacker shot out the glass at the main entrance and within minutes killed 20 first graders and 6 adults. Since that day, I've dedicated my life to helping schools prevent these tragedies nationwide. Having personally conducted over 60 K-12 school shooting investigations, including the one here at Covenant Presbyterian School, I'm here to express my support for House Bill 2357. Following that tragic attack in Nashville, you passed Public Chapter 322. In that chapter, you mandate the installation of clear, bullet-resistant or entry-resistant film on glass panels on each entry. The problem is bullet-resistant window film does not exist. I want to emphasize that globally, no company has successfully added a layer of window film to quarter-inch tempered glass, which is the glass that you have in every one of your schools, to make it bullet-resistant. This has been verified by the International Window Film Association, who explicitly stated in 2023 that there is no such thing as ballistic or bullet-resistant window film, yet it's mandated in Public Chapter 2357. Sadly, numerous deceptive companies are preying on schools and state officials claiming to have bullet-resistant window film. Some of these companies falsely claim to magically turn standard school glass into bulletproof glass by applying window film, a concept that is purely fictional and only seen in the movies. The current law mandates to have, again, bullet-resistant or entry-resistant window film on each glass panel at the exterior entries. Since bullet window film does not exist, I propose the removal. Additionally, the term entry-resistant film is too vague. It could lead to the sale of ineffective security film products by unethical companies. Entry-resistant film will create a false sense of security, which is worse than no security at all. Only a few adjustments in the wording can significantly enhance the school window security. Industry leaders and I propose using security film or glass that meets the ASTM F3561 standard that you just heard about, which is specifically designed to resist forced entry after being shot 10 times by an AR-15 and a simulated active shooter attack. After being shot 10 times, it's hit with a 100-pound ram, starting at 50 foot-pounds of force. This test standard was created by experts in active shooter, physical security, and the glass industry to address active shooter attacks. The leading organization in the glass industry is the National Glass Association, known as the NGA. The NGA recommends that all K-12 schools in the U.S. reinforce entry point glass to meet the ASTM shooter attack standard. Legislation should require window film companies to adhere to the ASTM F3561 standard to a level 1 and mandate that glass manufacturers achieve a level 3 compliance. Therefore, if we follow the guidance of the NGA, we would transition from mandating non-existent bullet-resistant film and a vague description of entry-resistant film to mandating window film and glass that complies with the ASTM F3561 shooter attack standard. This will offer an unbelievable level of security to all schools in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Watt, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you for that. And like I said, I agree with the concept of the bill. My question is this clear? Is this a generic term to whatever the technology may be a year or 2 years from now, that when we're being prescriptive as to what has to be installed, are we limiting the technology that may come about in a year or two?
I don't believe so, sir. This would set a minimal standard, so we could always step it up from there. But with this minimal standard, the technology hasn't changed much in the past 35 years for the window film industry. There's been no revolutionary products that have come out. They're all PVB and basically the plastic bottles that you're drinking out of. That's what their basis of design is. So I don't think we're going to miss out on too much, but it'll set the precedent that the product is shot and then it's attacked with a 100-pound ram. And what we're trying to prevent with that testing, what they're trying to prevent, is somebody shooting the glass, hitting it, reaching in and opening a door. And that's what the problem with all these other attack-resistant products are.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just trying to get clarity, and I agree with the previous speaker in terms of, I definitely love the concept of truth in advertising, right? If you say, if you think your school is going to be safe, you would want some kind of testing on that. But my question is, as you talked about the ASTM standard, you said windows and films.
Yes, sir.
So, but initially, and I'm not trying to trip you up, I'm trying to get a deeper understanding.
Yes, sir.
You had said that no film is really going to give you any kind of resistance toward that. So, kind of explain why the ASTM talks about glass and films or windows and films.
So what I was referring to is the window film will not make your glass bullet resistant, or as the world knows, bulletproof. It doesn't exist in the world. Bulletproof doesn't, and it's called bullet resistant. So I wore a bullet resistant vest, just like Representative Ritchie, when he was in the Navy, wore a bullet resistant vest. They're not bulletproof. So with that concept, companies are claiming to have something that they don't. So when it comes to bullet-resistant glass, you're manufacturing it. It starts at 3/4 inch thick and goes to 6 inches thick for the President of the United States, right? But typically to stop an AR-15, you're seeing 2.5 inch thick glass. The problem is your frames in schools are only rated for 1/4 inch thick glass, so you can't adjust to that. This ASTM standard, even if every bullet goes through, the goal is not to stop the bullets because you can't afford to, and because the frames can't handle it, the engineering of the buildings can't handle it. The goal is to stop the attacker. If we can stop them from coming in, so the attacker at Covenant Presbyterian came to the side door, shot out the glass with 10 rounds, bent down, came into the school and was able to kill 3 on the first floor, the 3 kids on the second floor, this would hold them back. Those 10 rounds and that attacker height and weight would not have been able to get through. I can testify, I know from shooting thousands of these, that attacker wouldn't have been able to get in. So this is a minimal standard that would hold back an attacker, slow them down, either stop them or slow them down and buy enough time for Metro to get there in 14 minutes.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. That's my last question. So what you're saying is the film helps with the after 10 shots, preventing that assailant from being able to manipulate the broken glass.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
I think an easier way, too, to explain, there's existing glass in schools, and there's way more existing glass than new builds or remodels or new secure vestibules that are going to be put in. So the film is for active windows that are out there that are not being replaced. If they're remodeling and they're redoing, then they should bump up to brand new glass because it's 10 times, 20 times stronger at pretty much the same price. So with that, they should be bumping up, and that's why we recommend the level 3 on that is for it. But the problem with the existing bill, even if you got incredible glass that's a level 8 or even bullet-resistant glass, per the law, the way that it's written, you would have to put a window film on it afterwards for it to meet this, and the window film will do absolutely nothing because the glass is unbelievably strong.
Representative Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for being here to share your experience and information on this. You'd mentioned about NGA and International Window Film Association. Can you go into a little bit more detail as far as for who they are and what they do?
Yes, sir. They're associations. The National Glass Association is for the glass industry, manufacturers, distributors, installers. And the International Window Film Association, that is the same again. They're the top resource for window film dealers, glass dealers, distributors, and for decades they've been the 30-party industry source for accurate technical information on glass or window film. So the big thing, and I've testified all over the country, sat before Senate, Congress, even nationally, the thing is a lot of companies will come up and pitch something that's going to make them money. When you have someone like the National Glass Association or the International Window Film Association, they don't sell anything they can't make any money. They're making a recommendation based on what they know to be true, what's best, because they're subject matter experts in that. So the National Glass Association, I have documents here I can leave with anyone that wants them too, where the National Glass Association is saying all schools should meet the F3561 ASTM standard. That's not me saying it as CEO and founder of Armored One. That's not Oldcastle, a $5 billion glass company. None of them. This is the NGA, and this is also the International Window Film. So great resources, and it's not just a company trying to make money. It's setting a standard compared to just writing words. They have to meet that test, pass the test, and get certified, and get a certification to actually sell to your schools.
Chairman Watt.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question. I was visiting a school in East Tennessee the other day, and it was a 100-year-old school building, and they made the statement like the glass windows and everything wouldn't support a film. Do you know what they were talking about?
That does happen at some of the schools. So we worked, Uvalde, as you guys know, Uvalde was attacked in May of now 2 years ago. And we worked with Uvalde schools to help them rebuild afterwards, and we're also helping them build their new school. One of their elementary schools called Batesville Elementary is a 100-year-old elementary school. And the glass is less than 1/4 inch thick. And if you were to press on it, you were to put window film on it, it would just shatter. So in those incidences, they would have to upgrade, which they should anyways, because they're not up to code unless they don't remove it, but if they were touching it or removing it, they wouldn't be up to code with the style glass that's in there. That's called annealed glass, and annealed's what breaks in the movies. That's really scary, the big pieces, and stab people, and you don't have that glass in a majority of your schools unless they're 100 years old, like Representative White is saying. But with that glass, you can't press on it because it's going to break when it's that thin and brittle.
Any other questions for our guests? Thank you for your testimony and for your answers and for your time today. Members, without objection, we'll go back into session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, question has been called. We'll be voting on House Bill 2357. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
All right, that brings us to item number 8 on the calendar, House Bill 2193 by Representative Mitchell.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
Properly motion. You are recognized on House Bill 2193.
Yeah, where this bill came from, I had a town hall meeting recently, and a gentleman who described himself as from the other party than myself and an avid gun collector challenged me and the state senator at the meeting that night to file a bill to tax the sale of guns, and then I suggested that, that sale of guns, the tax on the sale of guns would go to pay for mental health counselors for our schools. I didn't have any intention of running this bill this year because I kind of told that gentleman I had 3 stipulations I was going to put on running this bill. If this General Assembly this year passed a safe storage bill, an ERPO bill, and at least discussed the ban of assault weapons that are causing the problems, if we did anything in those 3 areas to address the issues that we're having, so you guys wouldn't be having this committee session here today trying to figure out how to secure our schools, then this bill wouldn't be necessary. We wouldn't have to have mental health counselors to, help our kids. But, in putting this together, they asked me, what percentage should you put on a gun? So I was like, well, how about an AR-15% for a sale of guns? And we'll call this the thoughts and prayers tax. Because, as this gentleman right here who sat before you testified, I would hate to be in his line of work. He has been to Sandy Hook, he's been to Uvalde, he's been to Covenant. Saying those names, you all know what I'm talking about without explaining it. And that's sad that those towns and places and names of schools are synonymous with tragedy now. It ought to be synonymous with, the achievements of young people. So this bill, if you pass it, which we all know you're not, at minimum would raise about $40 million. The fiscal note says $25 million, but that's on an average sale of a gun at $250. We all know the average sale is a whole lot more than that in this state. But that's, we need to do things. We don't, this bill, it's nice to think about and present to you. I'm hoping by coming in here, I've got you thinking about what we haven't done, what we need to do, because time's running out in this General Assembly, and a lot of people have told a lot of parents in this state, we're going to rise up and do something. Well, so far we're still waiting for us to do something, and that's me, you, and the rest of us in this General Assembly to quit bickering politically, and let's come together, both sides of the aisle, and protect children. So children don't have to worry about going to school. Parents don't have to worry about their children getting off the bus in the afternoon. But I've taken up enough of you guys' time. With that, I renew my motion.
Thank you. Right at the 5-minute mark, like good timing. Representative
Sorry
Warner.
I took up that much.
No. Representative Warner, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the gentleman asked me for the second. Granting him that second. At this time, I call for the previous question.
All right. A point of order. Yeah, technically, you're not supposed to say anything before it goes directly into the calling of the question. By the technicality, we will go to Representative McKenzie.
Then back.
As you all know, in these circumstances, I really have to read up on these rules. So I did want to say thank you, sponsor, for bringing this piece of legislation, because I was in Hawaii, tropical paradise, and as I told them where state representative in Nashville, Covenant's in that same vein. When you say Covenant, Nashville, it's like Uvalde, it's like Sandy Hook. Unfortunately, it's like Columbine. So it's unfortunate that we've got nationwide attendance on this. But my question, and it's a serious question, is if this bill were to pass and these funds were generated, would it be enough to put a nurse, a mental health professional in every school, secondary and elementary?
Representative Mitchell?
No, it wouldn't, but it would go a whole lot farther than I think just the handful that the governor's budget has put forth this year. So, this would at least, get us more than halfway there.
Representative Warner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Members will be voting on House Bill 2193. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. Bill fails.
Hey, thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Representative Mitchell. That brings us to item number 9, House Bill 2398 by Representative Harris. Do I have a second? All right, you are recognized on House Bill 2398, Representative Harris.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and to the committee. This bill I actually brought in special session. It passed all the way through, and then I had to give the bill over to someone else, and we didn't make it all the way, so we are bringing it back. This bill is basically what it will do is allow for our local LEAs, when they're building their safety plans, to just make sure they involve local law enforcement in that planning, so that way when local law enforcement has to come out for some form of emergency or whatnot, they would be able to at least know all the ins and outs of the school building for whatever reason. That's all this bill does.
Thank you for that. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Watt, you're recognized.
We passed this bill out of subcommittee last year. Don't give it away.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, don't hand that ball off again. All right. Anybody else? All right, we're set to vote on House Bill 2398. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Ayes have it. You're on the full education.
Thank you, committee. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 11, House Bill 2464 by Representative Stevens. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Properly motion. You are recognized on House Bill 2464, and I do believe you have an amendment.
That is correct. It's 14081.
All right, and it does rewrite the bill. Do I have a motion on the amendment?
Motion. Second.
Properly motion. Members, without objection, we'll go ahead and vote to adopt Amendment 14081. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You are recognized on 2464.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does, it requires that all substitute teachers receive annual school safety training and other instruction on emergency response procedures in their local Board of Education. And it also clarifies that schools are not allowed to hire substitute teachers that have revoked or suspended licenses elsewhere.
All right, thank you for that. And members, we did have someone that was down to, that requested time to testify on this. So if there's no objection, we will go out of session and invite our guest up. And just for the record, make sure, first of all, the light shows the light is red on the microphone, and then just state your name and who you represent. Then you'll have 2 minutes for a statement. Right there on top.
Okay.
I think it's working.
Yeah,
there
it's
we go.
on.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's on.
And just for the record, please state your name and who you're with, and you'll have 2 minutes for a statement, and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, committee. My name is Frances Rosales, and I currently serve on the Rutherford County School Board. This bill is birthed out of a very special experience of my own. I actually am a substitute teacher for the past 2 years in a district that's not in Rutherford County. I actually happened to be being involved in an incident that happened in February 2023, right before Covenant shooting, unfortunately. I was substituting that day for the third grade class, and we had an unexpected, unplanned lockdown procedure. I had kids that were coming to me very frantic because they didn't know what was happening or what was going on. And I had to think really quickly on my feet and figure out what to do. And so I asked the kids to go run and cover for safety while I did the other things that I cannot publicly state on record. After that, I went with the kids to be with them, and they were crying. I had kids telling me that they were afraid for their lives. And it dawned on me after 5 minutes that passed that this was actually a real life situation. It was not a drill. And at that moment, I made a decision that was going to impact the rest of my life in the event something were to happen, was that if any child was not going to make it or any person was going to make it, it was going to be me. So I asked the kids to hide in a different area location. There was no place for me to hide with them. And so if in the event someone were to come in the room and there was metal in their hands, the only person that they were going to see was going to be me. After it was all said and done and over with, thank God, nothing happened. It was something that had to be done, but no one came to me to debrief and to say this was why it happened and why it had to do. Now, I will tell you that in the district that I currently serve, we do have a manual that substitute teachers have to read beforehand, and I do follow that. However, in the event when something of emergency that happens, who has time to go to the desk or wherever that manual is at and flip through the pages and say, okay, let me read the procedures of what to do. So after this happened and realizing that there's not really training being done for substitute teachers, I realized that it was going to be a mission that I wanted to do on my own and to make it where in the state of Tennessee, we do require safety training for all teachers, including those that are not permanent in their short term, like substitute teachers. I will say that after the Covenant shooting, and then everyone knows, unfortunately, it was tragedy that hit even hard home for me, knowing that a substitute teacher was a victim of that situation. So I would love for you to get your support on this in passing a mandate that requires training for everyone, including substitute teachers, because they're also obligated, just like a permanent teacher, to under the care with the children to provide safety. It is my duty, federally and state law, to provide safety and to take care of all children. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for that. Members, any questions for our guest? Seeing none, I would say thank you, and we need many more substitute teachers like you with your care and your passion that you have. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming in today and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Members, without objection, we will be going back into session, and we are back on House Bill 2464. Any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we were set to vote on House Bill 2464. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it on the full education. All right, that brings us to item number 12 by Chairman Hurt, House Bill 2487. Do I have a motion? Second. Properly motioned. Chairman Hurt, you are recognized on 2487.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 2487 pertains to the threats of mass violence policy. Right now, a school superintendent has the flexibility to make a case-by-case modifications to violations of the zero tolerance policy, guns, drugs, assaults, threats of mass violence. The bill provides that if a student makes such a threat before they are automatically expelled for a year, they are automatically suspended and must undergo a threat assessment to determine if it was a valid threat. This will provide additional information to the superintendent when making the expulsion decision. Under current law, LEAs have threat assessment teams. Those teams include principal, vice principal, mental health professionals, school support staff, and school security SROs. The bill also requires that threats be reported to the local police or sheriff. This legislation will line up the zero tolerance policies in statute. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that, Chairman Hurt. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Watt.
Thank you, Chairman. And just a quick one, I like your bill. Are we putting the school director in any liability harm that he's got to make the ultimate decision on this? Did I understand that correctly?
Chairman Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, even currently, that school director can make the decision on the back end. This is providing him with more information, doing the threat assessment in order of making his decision.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none, we will be voting on House Bill 2487. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education. And that, I believe, wraps up that calendar. And we love doing this so much, we've got a second calendar we're going to jump into. I believe item number 1 on the calendar, House Bill 2922, we are rolling that to the Hill. That brings us to item number 2, House Bill 2388 by Representative Bricken. Do I have a motion? Properly motion. Representative Bricken, you are recognized on House Bill 2388, and I do believe you have an amendment.
Yes, I do.
Make sure you check your microphone, please.
Thank you. That's Amendment 14118.
All right. Actually, we were just being told that we did adopt this amendment last week, so we are on your bill, and you're in the proper posture, so you're recognized on House Bill 2388.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. What I would like to read is from, that will present the bill, is from the director of CTE for my county, but he's also the area CTE instructor for Middle Tennessee. This bill is necessary for systems to operate their middle schools related arts program where middle school CTE classes are now allowable. In the current TCA concerning seat count, there's no longer language specific for grades 6 through 8, so that automatically holds us or to the 25 max, 20 average, which is not feasible for middle school. There's not anything specific in the current law for middle school CTE because we didn't have C-coded classes that are now funded for them. As far as the maximum size, this is no different from now where we can put 25 in a high school welding class, but we choose not to for safety and practicality. This language matches statements under TCA code 49101-104 as it is specific to career academies. We're just asking for the same thing as it relates to middle school CTE courses. Keep in mind that just because there's a maximum seat number, we're most affected by the average seat number in middle school because there are not very many CTE courses in middle school. In all actuality, what most of us are looking for is a way to average somewhere between 27 and 28 seats per course. With that statement, I renew my motion.
Thank you for that. I have Representative Slater on the list.
Thank you, and thank you, sponsor, for bringing this bill. I, too, heard from my CTE director, and I'll just read one quick sentence. In short, I'm in support of the bill because it will help tremendously with how middle school schedules operate, since CTE courses are a part of students' related arts rotations. And so I'll be voting in support of the bill.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, my question is basically that from that I asked last week, and then we had the person speak to it. So could you speak to the safety aspect of the increased class size? You know, and I understand the Middle Tennessee CTE person's point of view, but they're speaking from a high school standard, and we know. You know, it's a little different between a middle schooler from attention focused on task and a high schooler. So to say those numbers are the same and that teaching's the same, I think would be a misnomer. So how would you deal with the safety aspect of increased class sizes at the middle school, working with dangerous pieces of equipment?
Go ahead, Representative Bricken.
Thank you for the question. What I have been told from instructors from the middle school that are involved in the CTE and through their management of their class sizes, and it's kind of maybe what you say common sense, they're never going to have class sizes and averages in courses where there's any safety risk. So we are relying on the common sense of the principals, the instructors in those classes to know what the safety protocol standards should be. And so,
Chairman Watt.
I think it's important, and I appreciate the more information you gave us. I think it's important on your amendment 14118, Section 1, Item 3, LEAs may. So I think it's key that we have that word may, and it doesn't say shall. So they may do this depending upon their needs or in the safety.
Chairman Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm just brief comment, not really any questions, but I wanted to follow up kind of on the concerns that were expressed last week. And I know in most cases in middle school that these are exploratory situations for these students, but there are some middle schools like the presenter last week where they have, you know, extreme equipment. I mean, equipment like I've not seen in my other schools. They're not in my district. They're north of us, but I have visited them. Our schools don't have those in middle school. That school does, and somewhere across the state do. But I'll reiterate the same thing. And I think there's some concern that if we open this can of worms and let them go to 35, that they're going to get 35 because it's a numbers thing. But I think that comes back to May. You know, that comes down to the schools, the administrators, and those decisions made there locally in discussion between those CTE teachers and the administration to make sure that if we do have those tools, that type of equipment, we can't do this and just for safety, or we, like she mentioned, we just can't use them. So again, that comes back down to the locals making responsible decisions, and I have faith in that. But there are situations across the state in that middle school, which I think was brought up, that it's not all exploratory. There are, you know, one-offs, and again, it comes down to the May, and I'm comfortable with that language in there. So thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
And members, I did want to let you know that the South Central CTE directors did reach out and did want to let everyone know that they were in support of this bill. And a lot of times, CTE directors, they do oversee high school and the middle school programs as well. But with that, does anybody else have any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we'll be set to vote on House Bill 2388. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, committee.
All right, item number 2 is Representative Powers here. I don't see him. We will roll House Bill 2115 to the Hill. We've already rolled 1 week. Item number 4. Did I not announce that? I'm sorry. Item number 4, House Bill 2591 has been rolled 1 week. I just realized that Chair Lady Moody had asked me to text her to let her know if she was coming up, and I had failed to do that. So I was trying to back channel there, but she has shown up on time. Appreciate that. So that brings us to item number 5, House Bill 2697. Properly motion. Chair Lady Moody, you are recognized on House Bill 2697.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your hard work when Criminal Fool finishes before you guys do, so God bless you. But thank you. Members, this legislation simply extends the benefit of 6 weeks paid parental leave to eligible employees at public charter schools. This bill was passed last year, but somehow or another it was some confusion. It just said public schools, and we know charter schools are public schools, so this is just clarifying that the charter school employees are included in that paid leave.
All right, thank you for that. Members, any questions for our sponsor? All right, we're set to vote on House Bill 2697. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you.
Takes us to item number 6, House Bill 2155 by Chair Lady Moody. Properly motioned. You are recognized on House Bill 2155.
Thank you, members. This bill is simply going to, if with your approval, will name a bill that we passed last year, and it was the law that we passed prohibiting the LEAs from deducting dues from the wages of the LEA employees for professional employees organizations. And that specific part of that bill, we would like to name the Michael Barron Paycheck Protection Act. And just, I'll be brief because I know you're here late, but Michael passed away suddenly. This bill was passed in last year, but in September of last year, he passed away suddenly. And Michael was in the Senate education world for 10 years. He's a Navy veteran. He was truly a champion for education, and we already miss him greatly. So with your positive sending this off, we would be able to name it after him and in his memory.
All right, thank you for that. Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I never had a chance to meet him, but I've heard great things, about him and the work that he did. But my only question, that's really a question, is could we find a better bill to attach his name to? One that's not that was so divisive. It was a pretty major kind of nasty conversation last year. So I would just have liked to have found a better bill, better thing that we've done, something that kind of reaches all constituents and not be so I would say, divisive as this particular piece of legislation was to name after him. So I'd ask you to consider finding something better, something more suitable for a life, of service to the state of Tennessee doing research. I mean, educational-wise, I mean, we could, third grade retention, we could attach it to something, maybe controversial, but something that got some good funding, or, something associated with the lottery. Couldn't we find something better to acknowledge a life well lived?
Chair Lady Moody.
Thank you, and I hear your comments. It's my understanding, of course, with him working in the Senate, Chairman Lundberg was the one that came up with this, but Michael was particularly very involved in that bill, and I think it's just because that was his last piece of legislation, although we did not know that at the time, that was why Chairman Lundberg felt like this would be an appropriate one to attach his name to.
Thank you. Members, any other questions for our sponsor? Chairman Watt.
How about the Michael Marin Education Freedom Scholarship Bill?
Members, any other questions for our sponsor? All right, seeing none, we're set to vote on House Bill 2155. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, committee.
Brings us to item number 7, House Bill 255 by Representative Raper. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? There we go. And I believe you do have an amendment. Yes, sir. What is that drafting code? Check your microphone for us.
Gotcha. Thank you. 011241.
All right, members, this does rewrite the bill. So without do I have a motion on the amendment? Motion. Probably motion. Members without objection will be voting to adopt Amendment 11241. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. Representative Raper, you are recognized on House Bill 255.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee. The purpose of this bill is to provide free breakfast and lunch to all public school students. And the background is last year I took the bill, I put the bill on notice, and at the time the fiscal note was about $750 million recurring. We took it back off notice, of course, and tried to work on it. We had a team of committee. Also, we had legal, we had fiscal. Everyone came together and tried to work on it. We got it down to about somewhere in the neighborhood of $750 million recurring, which I know my back's against the wall on that one, obviously. But as a former educator, I saw this need firsthand. Hungry children do not always come from economic status. I have numerous accounts of students stealing, borrowing, begging, and ultimately going hungry. I can only think of 2 areas where we mandate attendance. One are schools. The other is when we have incarcerated individuals in jails. And right now we're feeding them. And it's almost as if we're prioritizing our prisoners above our future, which are our kids. So the last thing I want to end with before I take questions is statistics indicate that hunger comes down to certain poverty levels, which is not always accurate. My personal statistic says that 1 hungry child is too many. So I'm going to, I'll renew my motion at that point.
Thank you, Representative Raper. Any questions for our sponsor? All right, seeing none, we're set to vote on House Bill 255. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Madam Clerk, let's take a roll call vote on that.
Representative Bolso. No. Votes no. Representative McKenzie. Aye. Votes yes. Representative Ritchie.
Aye.
Votes yes. Representative Slater. No. Votes no. Representative Stevens. No. Votes no. Representative Warner. Chairman White.
No.
Votes no. Chairman Hurt. No. Votes no. Chairman Haston.
Yes.
Votes yes. You've got 3 ayes and 5 noes.
And the bill fails for a lack of a majority on the ayes. Sorry for that. And we will be moving on to House Bill Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Representative Raper.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Oh, he's already rolled it. He's rolling it, sorry. Item number 8, House Bill 1831 has been rolled 1 week. Takes us to item number 9, House Bill 1917 by Representative Hale.
Motion. Second.
Properly motioned, and we do have an amendment that does rewrite the bill. I believe it's going to be Amendment 12314. Is that the amendment that you have? All right, check your microphone for us, please.
That's correct.
All right. Members, it does rewrite the bill, so do I have a motion and a second on the amendment? Properly motioned, and members without objection will be voting to adopt Amendment 12314. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You are recognized on House Bill 1917.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. House Bill 1917 has one key goal: to improve the quality of education for our students. Our smaller schools often find themselves losing qualified staff to larger districts, and the main reason for this is that the larger districts can pay teachers more. Additionally, the large districts have more money to spend on educational materials and infrastructure, etc. This aims to close that gap by increasing funding directly through the TISA funding formula. The weighted allocation would be as follows. Less than 1,000 would receive an additional 5%, 1,000 to 1999, 4%, 2,000 to 29.99, 3%, 3,000 to 39.99, 2%, and then from 4,000 to 49.99 would receive an additional 1%. In many counties, the school district is the largest single employer in the county, and when they're unable to compete, it causes economic distress in the county. This bill would bridge the gap between small and large districts and ensure that we can retain teachers and staff to continue to educate our children. So with that, I stand for question.
Thank you. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Watt?
Just to drill down a little bit, and I understand, and we have a bill floating through where we're doing the increase on the 1,000. So what you're trying to get at is for maybe our smaller districts, because of recruiting teachers and things like that, the funding. So where are you on with your fiscal note as far as the ability to address that?
Representative Hale?
Of course, we all realize that that's the hard part of these things, but it's the fiscal note is $29 million for 24-25 school year, and then of course $30 million. It is no increase to the locals because the locals are already meeting and exceeding their local contributions. I'll give you an instance of just one instance of why this is important. We had 2 administrators in DeKalb County school system. Both of them were principals in our local schools, left our small rural school district as administrators and went to a larger public school, to a classroom, $15,000 a year more. And we just can't compete with that. We don't have the sales tax base. We don't have the revenue base. And it's a struggle.
All right. Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, while I appreciate the sentiment that you're coming and your angle for this, I think it's kind of it's a either or when it doesn't have to be. I resonate with you. My school, which is deep urban, has a retention rate that's abhorrent, but for differing reasons. Money will cure this, and that's what you're saying. Money should cure this. What we need to do is be raising the tide to float all boats. Our funding, K-12 funding, is just not where it should be. To your point, that's basically what this bill is saying. we're not paying our teachers and our administrators enough to keep them as the professionals that they are. I have that same problem in urban. Now, my colleague from Blount County has 2 city schools that pays 15 to 20K more than we do, and there's a steady stream of cars going down Alcoa Highway to get to them, and so likewise going north Pellissippi Parkway to get to Oak Ridge. So it happens. So to me, it's not a either or. We have issues, and I've always said that deep urban kid and that deep rural kid, they're the same kid. It may be a little something different, but skin color, but their home life is the same. Their teacher retention rates in those schools is the same. So while I fully understand where you're coming from with this, because we're not these weights that we pass, in TISA formula, it helps, but as you're saying, it's not enough. So what I would ask is that, as you go and continue, that you consider kind of looking at all of our struggling schools, and that we bring all of our struggling schools into the pipeline to get these weights where they need to be, because they're not. I agree wholeheartedly. These weights are not where they need to be. Unfortunately, we're tying the voucher bill to that to get the rural areas right, but these weights need to get where they need to be. So thank you for bringing the bill and shining the light on it. I don't know if I can support it as is, because it's just not inclusive enough, but thank you for bringing the bill.
Representative Hale?
And I'll just make a note. One school, I think, that's possibly in your district, the school for the deaf. This bill would be an extra $43,000 just for that one school. That's huge for some of those schools. So,
Chairman Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm going to approach this from a little different angle, similar but different. The chairman mentioned earlier that there is something similar floating through with another bill, and that was, I felt, a good part of that bill, and we'll see where that ends up. And I would like to see this one, if the committee feels it worthy to follow that one through, just in case. I do want to continue the discussion on the structure, because the kind of the way it's looking. We'll get a chance to talk about that. But in my district, all of my schools had increased funding with TISA. They were all comfortable with what they had, but I do have, and we've discussed this, 2 extremely small districts that came up less during TISA because they're extremely rural, extremely small. They're busing because they contract with the county school was their issue, and they are significantly less in funding as a result of TISA. They're being held harmless now, but that's going to phase out. So, this was an option, I think, an avenue in order to get them whole down the road. But if this doesn't work, or if the other one, whatever, we're going to have to address that somewhere. And I hope the General Assembly would support addressing that for some of those schools that are less. But again, across my district, when I called them and asked them, they were all good. They were all increased funding, but these 2 small schools. So anyway, I support it for that reason. Other reasons to help other districts that need it, obviously, but specifically for those 2. So I appreciate you bringing it, and I hope the committee will see the need to pass it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Ritchie?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for bringing this bill. I think it's important taking a look at a lot of the different rural districts that are out there, and even some of them that are in the urban that have that different base. I would encourage you to take it. I know that you mentioned, as far as for the challenge on the fiscal note, I would encourage you to, whatever ends up happening, is definitely get with the folks that are running this 1183, the big bill, because they've got a money machine printed on that thing, so you could probably get this funded under there. But definitely sit with them, because I think it's something that is important enough that we need to be considering and expanding it out. But definitely, no matter what ends up happening here today with that, I would encourage you to reach out to them and see if there's a way to incorporate this into that, because there's already an element there.
And I will say Blount County does have $3 million in 1183, so Blount County does have a $3 million, I'm sorry, out of order. Representative Hale?
This bill would benefit over 70% of our public schools across the state, 100 school districts and 3 individual schools. With this bill, and that 100 districts and 3 schools would have the same opportunity as students across the state to receive equal education opportunities. So with that, I appreciate your support with the bill.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, we're set to vote on House Bill 1917. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. No. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, committee and chair.
Takes us to item number 10. Is Representative Davis? Yes. Representative Davis. House Bill 2158, properly motioned. Do you have an amendment?
Yes, Chairman, I do. I have that code as 015415.
All right, members. Properly motioned. Do we have another motion? Second. Properly motioned. Members, without objection, we will be voting to adopt Amendment 15415. All those in favor of adopting Amendment 15415, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You're recognized on House Bill 2158.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. So based upon kind of how the winds were blowing last week, I went ahead and amended this to really include a reporting of where we stand and to gather that data as to the number of nurses that we contract, the number of nurses that we employ, try to drill down some of the data with respect to the number of students that we have, some that have a nurse assigned specifically to that student, how many students we may have that have chronic illnesses that may require more of a nurse's attention, or just maybe allergies, and just really get some good data points so that we can move forward and have that reported to the Department of Education.
All right, members, any questions for our sponsor? Representative Slater, you're recognized.
So to be clear, this is a study only as amended, is that correct?
Representative Davis.
Thank you. Yes, it is. This is a report.
And one more question. And so the study will be done by the department? Who will do the study?
Representative Davis.
So those LEAs will send that information into the Department of Ed.
Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first, I'd like to say you have the best script handwriting I think I've ever seen.
No, Michelle's is pretty good too.
Oh, Michelle, okay.
Yeah,
I hadn't looked at it. All right.
I'm not as clean as hers.
It's excellent. But, again, as we talked about last week, thank you for the spirit of this bill. It's needed. And I'll go back to what I told the previous presenter is this bill tells us that we don't have enough money in this TISA formula to really serve our students. This is needed. This ratio would go so much further. You see increase in attendance, you see increased performance if those kids were healthy and actively learning. So the spirit of this bill, the original bill, I fully support. I support the study as well, but thank you for bringing the original bill in, and hopefully we can get this across the finish line when we realize we're not putting enough money into this formula. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Representative Davis, you're recognized.
So may I have you come speak to me in finance next time when I need to bring it back? Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none, we are set to vote on House Bill 2158. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. You're on to full education.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee.
All right, brings us to item number 11, House Bill 1844 by Representative Clemens. Do I have a second? House Bill 1844 fails for a lack of a motion. Lack of a second motion. Sorry. House Bill 1847 by Representative Clemens, item number 12. Do I have a motion? Sorry, just catching up on my, making sure, I was looking at the wrong bill for a second. We are on 1847, correct? All right, do I have a second? Bill fails for lack of a second motion. That brings us to item number 13, House Bill 2024. Okay, House Bill. All right, check your microphone.
I rolled 2024 1 week. I had a late filed amendment from the Department of Education.
Okay, House Bill, item number 3, House Bill 2024 is rolled 1 week. All right. Brings us to item number 14, House Bill 2409 by Representative Dixie. All right, we will roll that to the Hill. Brings us to item number 15, House Bill 1965, and that is rolled 1 week. Item number 16, House Bill 2238, rolled 1 week. Item number 17, House Bill 2028, rolled 1 week. Item number 18, House Bill 2381, we're going to roll that to the Hill. And that brings us to item 19, House Bill 2438 by Chairman Sparks. All right, properly motion, and Representative Sparks, you're recognized on House Bill 2438.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Members, House Bill 2438 is just an attempt to bring awareness to placing Narcan in our school system. Dr. Baum here recently passed House Bill 2311, which pretty much is doing what we were wanting to accomplish here, and I applaud him for it. If I could, Chairman, I just wanted to just bring some awareness on how serious this is. I think most members know this. I was looking at some research recently that teens 14 to 18 overdoses hit a surging 133% in 2 years by fentanyl. Recently, I had to preach a funeral for a mother who lost her 30-year-old son. He left 3 kids behind. I had just spoke to that boy two weeks earlier and talked to him about getting involved in Celebrate Recovery. And about 1 in the morning, she said that the boy's girlfriend came in there and got her and woke, and he was already deceased. A couple of years ago, my wife had got a phone call from a lady, that a friend of hers, and she said she was told to go to Vanderbilt. And the doctor, and my wife said, will you give her a ride to Vanderbilt? And I gave her a ride to Vanderbilt, and the mother was telling me, hey, the doctor's asked about organ donation. And I thought, boy, you try to give somebody hope, but there's no hope when people are asking you about that. And so I hung out at Vanderbilt for a few hours that night, and that mother lost her daughter. We're seeing too much of this, and it's just really sad. But Narcan has, from the research I've done, is reversed 93% of overdoses out there and has saved 60,000 lives. So with that being said, I'd like to take this bill off notice, Chairman.
All right, members, without objection, we will be taking House Bill 2438 off notice. Brings us to item number 20, also by Representative Sparks, House Bill 2441, properly motioned. Representative Sparks, you do have an amendment.
Yes, sir. Amendment number. Do you have 13708?
That is correct, and it does rewrite the bill. Members, do I have a motion and a second on the amendment? Properly motion, and members without objection will go ahead and vote to adopt Amendment 13708. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This bill, House Bill 2441, comes from our school board, Rutherford County School Board, and as members know, we do listen to our locals. We listen to our school board members. They're the closest to our teachers, closest to the students and parents. And the bill basically is in 2023, the legislature appropriated $35 million for fast growth stipends. As y'all know, our county, Representative Stevens, Isles County, is the 13th fastest growing county in the nation. $37 million was needed for fast growing stipends alone. The insufficient appropriation resulted in a pro data reduction for all school districts, which actually resulted in Rutherford County receiving less than it would have for growth under the BEP model. I do have one of my school board members here that I should be on the list, Francis Rosales, to testify why this means so much to our school board back home.
Members, we do have a guest that had requested to speak on this, and so if she would like to come up, and I think that she knows the drill right now, but just come up and state your name for the record, and then and who you represent. And members will be going out of session. Oh, go. Just, there we go.
Sorry. I thought it was an automatic thing. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee. Again, my name is Frances Rosales. I serve on the school board for Rutherford County. I'm really thankful for Mike Sparks to hear concern in regards to this bill. This bill does speak into two specific things. Firstly is to raise awareness about the current migrant issue that Rutherford County is experiencing with the ESL population, highlighting its negative economic impact on the district and emphasizing the need for accountability. And then secondly is the bill addresses the current growth in the county's population, which has led to overcrowded schools. I would like to also include that I am a byproduct of ESL. I graduated from Puerto Rico. Granted, Puerto Rico is a United States territory, but I did not know the language, and I came here not knowing English. So very thankful for our education. The TISA model is recognized as a beneficial approach as it provides funding to meet student needs, and for which we're very grateful to lawmakers for their diligence in making this change. The current funding model incorporated all 45 components from the BEP formula, including capital overlay component, and as a result, yielded an estimated $6,860 for the base. One advantage of the BEP formula is having the capital overlay component, which identified classroom space as an indicator for funding specifically earmarked for capital maintenance projects. The PEP formula provided funding on a per square foot basis for maintenance and capital overlay for school buildings, and the amount varied across grade level. With the new funding, this evolved into the fast growth stipends, including infrastructure stipend and student stipend, totaling $35 million to serve both. Rutherford County qualified for both stipends during this academic year. However, the student stipends for the state outweighed the $35 million for both stipends by $2 million, which resulted in a prorated distribution under $5,000 for Rutherford County, and as a result ended with no funding remaining to distribute for infrastructure stipend. This is the segment of the model dedicated to allocating funding for counties in high growth areas, specifically targeting systems experiencing over 2% growth in average daily membership or instruction and support. Modifying the funding model will enable counties to allocate funds towards capital spending with no restrictions, such as purchasing land for new school, new construction, renovations, and maintenance projects, akin to how the capital overlay component operated under the old BEP formula. Regarding the current influx of ESL students, the district is compelled to reallocate funds to accommodate them. Presently, our enrollment for this academic year has grown to 1,000 new students, with over half being ESL students. Despite this, funding.
About 20 seconds.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Well, all in a nutshell is that we're asking for more funding that includes for capital because we're experiencing overgrowth and we're having to reallocate. And in the 8th through 8th letter grade is that we would like for them to be calculated only for the growth component and not the accountability for TISA tiers 1 through 3 for the ESL population. Thank you very much.
That was impressive. That was impressive. Members, any questions for our guest? Members, thank you for coming back, and thank you for that testimony. Members, while we're out of session, we do have the Department of Education down also that had wanted to speak on this. So if the department would come up.
Thank you.
Just state your name and who you represent for the record, and then you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jack Powers. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Policy and Legislative Affairs at the Department of Education. I do want to just raise two concerns that we have with this piece of legislation that I've shared with the sponsor, and I would appreciate the committee to consider. One is related to the inclusion of English language learners in A through F letter grades. So I want to be very clear that currently, under our accountability rules, English language learners are already excluded from the achievement indicator for 2 years. And then we exclude them from growth for 1 year, at which point they then start to count for growth. This would go much further, the way that this bill is drafted, and it would exclude students that are in all 3 tiers in TISA related to English language learners. That would capture not only students that are currently receiving direct English language service, but also students that may have exited and are no longer receiving direct English language service, but are what's called transitioning students because they've demonstrated that they have a sufficient grasp of English, but we still follow and monitor to make sure that they don't backslide. Plain and simple, we just are not supportive of excluding that student group from our accountability, given how we believe the A through F letter grades are supposed to be reflective of the entire student population. The second concern I'd raise is just the concept of budgeting in the current year for TISA. There's a reason it's funded based on prior year enrollment, and that is to help districts have a predictable budget. Funding it on current year enrollment would just provide a lot of challenges related to school budgeting. Thank you.
All right. Members, any questions for the department? Representative Slater.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to, and it may just be reiterating what you had said, but I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. So currently, an ELL student is excluded for growth when it comes to the A through F grading. Is that correct?
Just for the first year that they're counted as an English language learner.
Representative Slater.
And I wasn't here for the debate on the A through F grading, but I suspect, yeah, well, that's true. It was a while ago. But I suspect that it was so that there would be that year for a student to come in who's learning English, that we don't want to, we want them to learn English, and that there should be enough time to get them caught up, and then it would be counted for growth. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I believe that's accurate, and I'll mention here that the rules that we apply for our state level accountability with A through F letter grades related to English language learners really mirror the same rules that we have from the federal government. And the federal government lets you, as a state, decide not to count students for a year for growth and then up to 2 years for achievement, which is what we've chosen to do. And I think that it is based on the understanding that there is a time period in which we want to focus on their grasp of English language and hold districts harmless, as you will, related to accountability, but just for that short time period.
Thank you.
All right. Representative Ritchie.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here. You mentioned, going back on the English language or learners currently versus in the bill, and you'd mentioned 1 year and then 2 years as far as for the caption. Can you restate those specific dates again?
Yes, sir, I'm happy to. So TISA contains 3 different categories of English language learners, all of which this bill captures. And if you read it, it's really designed to kind of have a graduated categories that go from when a student is first identified as needing English language supports to after they've tested out of needing those supports, so to speak, but we're still following them for a few years to make sure that they don't backslide. When you look across all different tiers, you could be talking about students that have been in our classrooms for years, right? Like you could have a student who's transitioned, they've passed the test to show that they don't need direct English language support, but maybe they're in that 2-year period afterwards. They would be included here and excluded from our A through F letter grades, even though they've shown that they've sufficiently grasped English language. Does that answer your question, sir?
Any other questions? Chairman Watt.
Thank you. Maybe I missed, under the TISA form, that our English language learners, aren't they, if we were talking about this, I may have missed, I was having another conversation. English language learners, they're exempt for 2 years from retention. Is that correct?
That I was speaking to the performance indicator on the A through F letter grades. Just going based on memory, I believe that's correct.
Okay.
If they're in the first 2 years, they're exempt from retention.
Okay, and
Chairman White?
And I think I'm correct. I've been looking up. The fiscal note on this bill is 911 million. Is that correct? Can I get confirmation? Had to search for a
I
little
think we're
bit.
getting ready to have an appearance from legal for the first time today. Please stand by. All right, we'll go out of session to hear from legal.
Casey Washburn, Office of Legal Services. Chairman White, looking at the fiscal note for the amendment, which is 13708, initially it says that there is an increase in state expenditures of $911,335,000 for fiscal year 2024, 2025, and subsequent years, an increase of local revenue of $937,585,000 in fiscal year 2024, 2025, and subsequent years.
All right, thank you for that. And without objection, we'll go back into session. Any other questions? Chairman Hurt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just a few comments to the department here. I'm a little pulled. I understand the funding part of this legislation. I'm completely have concerns with on how that would work. But so I'm pulled because, and we've discussed this. I want to take the opportunity to get on record. I'm comfortable pushing back with anything regarding the A through F letter grades because I'm completely dissatisfied with that process that took and where it landed, and how that looked from delaying a year to what we did and the way all that worked out. So anyway, I'll make a decision here in a second where I'm going to be, but I just want to get a chance to say that on record. I agree with you on the funding side. That other completely comfortable pushing back. So thank you.
Any other questions for the department? All right, thank you. Without objection, we'll be going back into session. And we'll go back to Representative Sparks for any comments on House Bill 2441.
Yeah, thank you. I guess what we're asking for is a level playing field. Every district has unique needs. Ours, we're just growing so fast. A lot of the, I hate to say, just the open border. I mean, this fentanyl bill that we just had goes back to the open border. High ESL, the growth that we have, and the strain it's putting on our infrastructure. For example, just 3 years ago, I believe it was, the next high school is going to be estimated at $90 million. Now it's $150 million to build. My county really is in a crisis, and I think I'm safe to say that we are in a crisis to try to pay for growth, to try to pay for all this influx of people coming to our community. But if I could read, our school superintendent was going to attend. He had a family issue he had to take care of, but I wanted to just read two concerns that he had with this whole issue. The first, and he says, the problem with the real-time data portion, the TDOE requires LEAs to submit by 15th of every month. Under BEP, LEAs were able to verify and make adjustments to the data through the school year. This is not the case with TISA, and it was presented by TDOE that real-time funding was the reason. LEAs are given 20 days to make changes, but after the period, the data is locked. If TDOE is not going to fund in real-time districts should be permitted to make corrections to ensure we receive the correct amounts. The current rules and regulations remove funding from districts that they are entitled to receive. Second, proposed solution, he says, certify data twice per year, much like we did with BEP. It would ensure districts that are adding students, much like Rutherford County, are receiving funding for the students that they are actually serving. For example, if we added over 700 ESL students this year, we won't receive funding for those students until next year. That has cost the district roughly $4 million in local tax revenue, since we won't receive funding for the students until next year. I do realize this has a significant fiscal note, and I appreciate Rutherford County, our Board of Education, Dr. Sullivan, really looking at this and bringing this to our awareness. And just really looking for feedback from you, Chairman, and this committee, and as well as the department. The department has, we're going to do, I guess we could call it a spring study, you know, in May with Commissioner Reynolds. She was going to come in to our district. We were grateful for that, but then we had the bad storm. She couldn't make it. So I think we're looking at doing a spring study in May with the commissioner coming to Rutherford County and meeting with our school board. With that being said, I will take this bill off notice and have further discussion with our commissioner and be back next year with probably some similar legislation, sir.
All right. Thank you, Representative Sparks. Without objection, House Bill 2441 is off notice. Members, we were bearing down on the 2-hour mark, I know, but we're going to try to squeeze in 2 more bills. We've had a couple members here in the back. So we'll go to item number 21, House Bill 2349 by Representative Johnson. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Sorry, bill fails for lack of a second motion. And that brings us back to item number 14. We're going to bring up without objection. Item number 14 is House Bill, 2409 by Representative Dixie. Properly motioned. Representative Dixie, you are recognized on House Bill 2409.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a surprise. I wasn't really prepared to speak today, so.
Patience paid off.
All right, thank you. This bill, as everyone starts off, is a simple bill. It basically will require the Department of Education to collect some information for private institutions that are receiving scholarship money from that program. Only 11% of the private schools in the state are eligible for scholarships. There needs to be a little bit more data collected on non-public schools eligible for this program. This bill would mandate collection of information on tuition, demographics, admission policies, private public funds allocated to that institution by the Department of Education. And it also requires schools to report on information to the Department of Education so that administrators can analyze the costs. Some of the information that would be included is tuition charged by the schools and the amount of financial aid given to those schools, the admission policies of those schools, those participating in programs disaggregated by race, income, disability, and English language status, and we just heard so much about, the amount of public funds received by specific students at non-public schools, the amount of private funds supplemented public funds to each student in non-public schools, and demographic analysis of those applying to use public funds enrollment in private schools. So I think this is a way that if we're going to have some sort of accounting of how our funds are used and what they're going for, and make sure that we have some accountability there. So with that, that's my explanation, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for the time that you've given me.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Chairman White, you are recognized.
Thank you. And I do understand what you're asking, but I was told, and I need confirmation, I don't know if the department's still in here, that they don't have the ability to collect that data from our non-public schools. Are we asking them to do something that they're not even able to do?
Chairman White, we do have the department down on the list if there's someone here. All right.
That's okay. I answer for them.
I will let you have a say if you would like to while we're waiting on Jack to come on down.
I just think that,
Dixie, you're recognized.
And I think this is one of those situations that if you give somebody some money, if somebody asks you to borrow some money or you give them some money, you want to know what they're going to use it for. And I think it's very appropriate that if they're going to give them public dollars to fund fund education for our students, that it's appropriate that we can ask what this money is going for and how it's being used, and to make sure it's going appropriate. And this is just accountability measure to make sure that the students that they say that these scholarships will help actually help those students who it's supposed to help, which are supposed to be the low income and marginalized students.
All right, and we do have the department here on the list to speak on this if they would like to come up. It'd be House Bill 2409.
He's lost, Chairman, so don't worry about him.
Just you thought you were out, we pull you back in. All right, without objection, members, we will go out of session, and I'll go to Chairman White so that you can ask the question that you had.
Thank you. Yes, the question before us on House Bill 2409 by Representative Dixie, where he's asking the Department of Education to annually collect and report certain information. Don't necessarily disagree with what he's asking, but my question is, I was told that the Department of Education doesn't have the ability, the authority, or the data to collect such. What say you?
Well, first of all, thank you for your patience. I was out meeting with our wonderful board member from Rutherford County.
Go ahead and state your name and who you represent. For the record,
apologies,
please.
Jack Powers, Assistant Commissioner of Policy and Legislative Affairs of the Department of Education. In terms of our authority, I mean, I think you all could pass a law and give us authority. Our position related to this bill is more of a philosophical one. There's a lot that's listed in here in terms of data collection related to non-public schools. Some of the items are more than we even ask of our current public schools. And I think one thing that comes to mind is asking about information on where a student came from before they enrolled in the non-public school. And then I'll just say to the committee, which is something that I know that a lot of folks have heard us say too, that we're also just advocating that any questions around requirements for non-public schools be considered as part of the larger bill that is moving through the Senate and the House. But to your point, Chairman White, I mean, right now this is not information that we collect necessarily, but you all have the authority to pass a law.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So from the department standpoint, if the sponsor would mirror the accountability questions that they asked of our LEAs, then this is something that you could support.
I would say that we would still have concerns and still advocate that it be a matter settled as part of the larger bill, and that we would not move to a support position.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. I guess I'm finding the difficulty in that at the end of the day, this is $141 million of not your money, not my money, a minuscule fraction that we spend on sales tax, but the state payers money. Shouldn't there be some accountabilities in terms of how those students attract? And so if we align those to at or below even, I would say at what we're requiring of our LAs, wouldn't that be something that we could get behind?
Thank you for the question, Representative. I would say just broadly that accountability can look different ways, and I think at the end of the day, related to some of the school choice programs that we have ongoing right now, parents are a really great form of accountability. They're opting into these programs at higher and higher rates each year, so accountability can look different ways.
All right, members, any other questions for our guests? All right, without objection, we will go back into session, and I'll go to Representative Dixie.
Oh, I just was kind of want to make a comment that if a student transfers from one school to another school, I'm sure there's a record of how that happened, so I'm sure that you could possibly keep up with that. So I think that there's an opportunity for the information it's asking is not recreating the wheel or asking them to do something that's over and abundant for what I'm trying to do here. But I appreciate the department's answer, and I appreciate you taking time to listen to me, and I would also like to ask for a roll call vote.
Representative Ritchie, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not often that my seatmate gets to come in into one of the committees that I sit on, so definitely had to make sure I gave him a motion. But after listening to Department of Education and some of the other folks that I'd had come in, I think there's something that we could end up taking a look at and kind of figuring out how it best kind of fits in. But I'd make a motion to roll this to summer study.
All right, members, that is a proper motion. Do I have a second? Properly seconded. Without objection, Madam Clerk, please take the roll call vote on whether or not it goes to summer study.
Representative Bosso. Aye. Votes aye. Representative McKenzie. Aye. Votes aye. Representative Ritchie. Aye. Votes aye. Representative Slater. Aye. Votes aye. Representative Stevens. Aye. Votes aye. Representative Warner. Chairman White.
Aye.
Votes aye. Chairman Hurt. Votes aye. Chairman Haston. Aye. You have 8 ayes.
I wanted to win at least one, be on the winning side at least one time today.
It's a great bill to end on a Unanimous bipartisan agreement there, ladies and gentlemen. House Bill 2409 to summer study.
All right. I'm glad that I could bring both sides of the aisle together. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dixie. Members, we are going to roll the without objection, we will roll the remainder of the calendar to next week's regular calendar. And just as a reminder, next week we will be on final calendar March 19th, so get your bills on notice if you haven't already. And with that, without objection, we stand adjourned.